and which will also help us in understanding what is meant by term structures, and further to that, and their interaction between the spot and the forwards and things like that, and also the various theories that are driving the term structure of interest rates. We'll talk about three different theories that will drive the term structures of the interest rates. So we'll be spending some time on that. And finally, towards the end, we also will look at what we call as gross redemption yield when we talk about the interest rates and the bonds. How do we link the gross redemption yield with couple of other terms called n-year par yield versus coupon bias? We'll talk about some of the key terms that will drive this space, and we'll also spend some times in terms of understanding the volatility of the present in the bonds, where the major focus will be towards the items like duration and convexity. We'll use different methods of durations, different ways in which we compute the duration, and finally we'll end up this session with the Reddington's conditions for immunization. If at all we have to say that our particular portfolio is immunized or not, our investments are immunized or not, what are the various tests we can do in that particular aspect? So these are the typical things which we would cover as a part of this session. So to start with, whenever we talk about the word called spot rate, right, in terms of bonds and the bond pricing, bond valuation, we use this word called spot rate a lot. Whenever we call something as a spot rate, it is nothing but the yield that is on a zero coupon bond. Let's say I have invested 100 today and the bond has given me 110 after 1 year. So this is a zero coupon bond because one, there are no intermediate payments between the initial date and the maturity date. So we call it as a zero coupon bond, and whatever the yield that this bond gives over the maturity period on an annual basis is what we call as a n-year spot rate. For example, we have an FD kind of stuff. Any FD, fixed deposit, can very well be looked at as a zero coupon bond because we are investing something now which will give whatever the value on maturity and nothing in the middle. Those are what we are calling as equivalent to zero coupon bond, right? The only difference being in a zero coupon bond, what is paid on maturity is known in advance, whereas the amount at which we would be depositing now is always based on the fixed amount that would be paid in future. Whereas in case of FD, probably we'll deposit a round figure today and we may get some kind of added interest in future at a later point in time. Let's assume, for simplicity purpose, there is a fixed deposit which is going to pay us 1,000 after 5 years, and we are asked to deposit 800 or 700 today. We are told that you deposit 700 today and that will give you 1,000 after 5 years. In this case, this is a zero coupon bond because it doesn't pay any kind of intermediate payments in the middle. So whatever is the annual rate of return on this zero coupon bond is what we call as a 5-year spot rate. Typically, the word spot rate is generally associated with any zero coupon bond. Even if it is a coupon bond, we may have to convert it into a zero coupon bond. There are various mechanisms to do that. So whatever is the interest rate that is available on this zero coupon bond of this kind of a risk is what we are calling as a N-year spot rate for this. So how do I find out the N-year spot rate using the compounding? This divided by this to the power 1 by 5. This is a compounding interest formula. So it is saying around 7.4% happens to be the 5-year spot rate. In this example, if I am taking this as the example, almost 7.39% happens to be the 5-year spot rate. So that's how we define N-year spot rate. Any kind of return that is obtainable on a N-year maturing zero coupon bond with a face value equal to 1. Because if the face value was equal to 1000, then we are talking about paying 700. But if the face value was equal to 1, we are talking about whatever is the rate that is associated. So around 7.39% is what is the amount that has to be paid on that zero coupon bond. And that is what we call as a discount factor. The discount factor is nothing but 1 by that particular amount to the power n. So because what is the discount factor in this case? The discount factor actually has come out to us as something as 1.42, right? Or probably 1 by 1.42, which will work out to, or the other way of writing the same, the discount factor is nothing but 700 by 1000, which works out to zero point 0.7. And the other way of determining that factor is, if at all we know the 5-year spot rate, what you can do is this to the power 5. If you are doing this, is anyhow coming out to 1 by 1.42. You do a 1 by of this, you will simply get the same 0.7 itself. So that is where we are talking about this formula. If at all you know the N-year spot rate yn, if yn is equal to 5-year spot rate, or probably if someone says y5 equal to 7.4%, then it is nothing but a 5-year spot rate equal to 7.4%. Now that you know 5-year spot rate is 7.4%, you can find out the discount factor to each, so that you can discount you can discount the cash flow of that particular period using this discounting factor. So the spot rate is a very important aspect in terms of valuing any kind of bond. We'll see at a later date. We'll take up one small numerical to see how this spot rate will help me in pricing a bond, how this spot rate will help me in calculating what should be the amount that should be paid to acquire a particular bond. So in short, two important things that we have to be comfortable with when we talk about the spot rate is, one, it is the interest rate that is associated with a zero coupon bond. And the second is, it is more associated, if at all you know the spot rate, you should be able to find out the discounting factor for each of the cash flows. On the same lines, we also bring in, so whenever we talk about the spot rate, the other way of talking about is, if I deposit my money for a 2-year period, what is the annual interest rate that I am going to get? Deposit for 3 years, what is the annual interest rate? Deposit for 5 years, what is the annual interest rate? It may be different in all aspects. Probably when you go to the banks, you will see that for each of the years, the interest rates which they specify are different. So as of today, if you are blocking your money for the entire 5-year or 3-year or 2-year period, what is the interest rate per year? This is not the excess. I mean, when someone says 2 year interest rate is 7% and 3 year interest rate is 7.5, it doesn't go as slab up to 2 year 7% and from 2 to 3 7.5. It does not go like that. For the entire 3 year period, it is given as 7.5% per annum. So that is what we are calling as a spot rate. Now, when we are talking about a spot rate, it is always right from the current period. From the current period to the next 5 years, what is going to be the interest rate? Because we are talking about an investment which is maturing after n years, and how much would be paid after n years. Everything is known in advance. So that is where we call, whenever we talk about an n year spot rate, right from now to the n years. So always the spot rate involves from now onwards, right? And let's say now we use a different term called forward rate. So whenever we use the word forward rate, it is the interest rate not from now. From now, if I am finding out a 3 year rate, we call it as the spot rate. But if I say after 1 year, after 1 year, I am finding out the 2 year interest rate, right? From now, a 3 year rate should be the same as, if at all I am talking about 1 year from now, whatever is the 2 years from that point.